I believe we're live, but I never trust it until I see it over here. Because sometimes I'll be talking.
You get to see us make total... what?
I'll be talking because I think we're live, and then like I watch the video later, and it's like it didn't start till like 15 seconds into it. Anyway, what's up, everyone? No, what's
up, guys?
It's been a while since I've been live on my channel. My friend here. Some of you have been asking, is this Randy? Because I said my bunkmate. This is Prison Mike.
My name is Prison Mike, if you know anything about The Office. I'm Prison Mike!
So
I took care of him!
Yeah, Randy was never my bunkmate in prison. Randy had a different bunk.
That was jail, wasn't it?
That was actually in jail.
Yeah.
And in the course of jail and prison, you end up with a bunch of different bunkmates, but you definitely have the right. It was probably like 2.5 years or something like that. Yeah, so it was a while. So 2.5 years, this guy was my bunkmate. Anyway, hadn't seen my kids and stuff for a while, so he's visiting. And whenever you meet up again, you just end up talking, hey, remember when that happened? Remember when that happened? Yep. Remember when this happened? Remember when that happened and stuff? And so anyway, we were eating earlier, and I was like, "What? We should just go live. We should just go live and
do some reminiscing live on air, spin some tales for you guys, and let you know what the real deal is."
So this is Kane, and they've never heard you talk before, but you sound weird to me.
I sound weird.
No, you sound weird with your...
okay, yeah. Maybe I should explain something to the audience. I just had oral surgery done. My mouth is extremely sore, and I do sound lispy from time to time. I apologize. That's a problem if anybody's using closed captioning. My bad. But,
Yeah, because I'm used to you talking like this the entire time.
Well,
blah, 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 blah. All right, so...
That's Prison Mike's voice.
So we're gonna go ahead and share some stories. Most of them you guys probably never heard before. Stuff, basic prison stories and stuff like that. Anyway, just
if you want to listen to them.
Who doesn't want to listen to prison
they're
stories?
very entertaining.
There are entire YouTube channels that are just prison stories, right?
Yeah, they have whole actual channels dedicated to prison life.
I saw there's like...
I avoid them like a plague.
saw a woman has one now. I saw a woman just because I have no idea. I guess it's being recommended because I have clicked on the prison videos before, right?
Right.
Like you see a video, will you get your wig split if this? And I'm like, does this guy actually know what he's talking about? So I'll click on it and stuff like that. And so now it recommends all these prison videos and stuff.
Now we know what you do in your spare time.
Yeah. So we're gonna tell a little prison stories, and we're gonna explain to you guys how not to get your wig split if you get locked up.
And don't end up in prison.
Yeah. Don't be stupid. Don't be stupid. So anyway, little background about you.
Okay.
We were in prison together for a few years.
Yes.
Back in the 1990s, but you'd been locked up several years before me.
Yes.
So you were considered, by the time I was in there, you were considered like old school convict.
Yeah, I'd already...
Not old school, because there were actually old men who've been locked up 20, 30 years
I've done
and stuff.
6.5 or 7 years before I met you. No, 6 years. 6 years before I met you.
Yeah, so then... so anyway, you can go into as much or as little detail as possible, but what'd you do, man? What'd you do?
All right.
What'd you do?
Okay, look, everything on paper or anything that's said, it always sounds awful, okay? All right, I'm just going to say it. Like, I was in for armed robbery. I was in for possession of a firearm in a robbery. Stuff. Kidnapping because I took the guy hostage. Let me explain myself a little bit, though. There was a situation, basically, that was involved that a young girl had been assaulted. Nobody was doing anything. The police weren't doing anything. Her own family, her own father. So I decided to take it into my own hands. And, well, I went a little too far. So... so I ended up in prison. I ended up in maximum security. That was before I met you.
What were all your charges?
Let me see. Armed robbery, abduction, 2 charges of gun in the commission of a felony, and I think that was about it.
Sounds like a real loser.
Thanks, buddy.
Anyway. Oh, actually, let me turn down this volume slightly. It looks like we're clipping a little bit. So you've been locked up a while before me, and then I get to Stanton Correctional Center. I was sent to
Fresh
Stanton.
fish. Yeah.
I was sent to Stanton Correctional Center specifically because they had a mental health area there. Stanton used to be, what was it? It was Eastern State or Central State Psychiatric
It was
Hospital? No,
Central State. It was Central State. That's Central Virginia.
No,
Central
I used to be at Central State.
No, Western State. Western State.
Okay, yeah. I was at Central State as a mental hospital. And then when they were sending me to prison, it said may need mental health treatment, and they sent me to Stanton. But this place had been, before it was a prison, it used to be a mental health facility going back like to the 1800s.
Also a Civil War hospital. Also they also held prisoners of war there briefly. Yeah, stuff.
There was like a big graveyard there.
Oh, there's a graveyard right across the street from the rec.
It was actually a creepy place because on the one hand it's a prison, but they left all the buildings and stuff.
Yeah.
They didn't use the dilapidated buildings and stuff except for like storage, like storing supplies and stuff like that.
And industries. Remember, the industry, the second industry building was in that dilapidated by the main office.
Matter of fact, I actually saw on one of those like those group of dudes that go around looking for haunted places.
Yes,
because Stanton was closed down, right? But now I saw one of those videos where those guys went into.
Now, did you know that it's condos?
Yeah. No, I've seen it, but not the old crap buildings.
No, they're still up.
Yeah, the building we were in that is now condos, and I saw that and I was like, I was like, you guys live in there, man? You know what was going on up in there? You know the stuff that was going up on, and what's now your bedroom, man?
Yeah, murders happen like in the bathroom. I mean, literally, when it's a mental health place, there's 2 murders in there. God knows how many assaults in the prison and
you know, it's crazy. Else, you remember? Since I did welding as my trade, and there was that tower there. Up on in that tower, there was this wooden bathtub with a thing that would close. It would close over top of it.
I don't know nothing about this here.
There's a wooden bathtub up there because I worked in the building, right?
Right.
So there's this wooden bathtub with an enclosure that slides over top of it, and it has a hole in the middle. And I was asking what the heck that was for.
Don't tell me that was a neck hole.
Yeah. They'd stick you in there if you were bucking, right? If you went crazy, because it's a mental health hospital, right?
Yeah.
And things were a bit more crude back in the day. But if you were really bucking and flipping out and hitting people and stuff like that, they'd stick you in that tub, close the hole over, close it over your heads, and then fill up the tub with ice water, right? Until you calm down. Eventually you're nice and calm because
it's either hypothermia, death, or you're calm. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the sort of creepy stuff was going on in there, and then they had the old building where I've been in there a bunch of times because they used it as storage to store like giant boxes of paper towels and stuff. But there'd be like, holes in the floor and stuff like that. And then I don't have verification for this, but I just heard from the people who had to clean out, like I guess the sewers or something like that underneath. And they said there are all these they've found fetus skeletons and stuff like that from because they're back in the day, way 100 years ago.
Yeah,
I don't know how they didn't decompose and stuff, but they said that. Again, I can't verify. They just said that's what.
Well, bones can last an awful long time, So, I mean, that's believable, especially in a cold, dark place.
Yeah. So these would have been basically women mental patients who are getting pregnant in a mental hospital,
and you know how they got pregnant. Yeah. So
So anyway, it eventually became a prison, but they had a mental health area given its background. So I got sent there. I got sent there, and then my first bunkmate. You remember Grover? He's one of the old guys.
Yeah, he was Harris, older fella. Yeah,
he was. There were him and Buck, and then there was a dude named Rudy. But those are like old men. Old men in prison. It's basically people who've been locked up like 50 years of their life.
You guys would love to meet some of these people. Trust me, they were characters. Yeah, as many dangerous people that were in there, there were some real characters in there. Some real characters. We'll get into that a little bit later. But
Bernice said, "What age?" Asking me, "What age did you go to university since you spent time in prison?" So I went went to prison, then I got out and went back to
school as a full-time job. I think, didn't you? Pretty much. Yeah. You were in school for years.
For a long time. So
I visited you a couple times.
I was in my mid-20s. I was in my mid-20s when I if you're thinking about like when I met Nabil and stuff like that, that would have been after I got out of prison.
Trust me, he's got his schooling. I've never seen the man go after college the way he did. Yeah. I'm proud of him.
Yeah. So anyway, my first bunkmate. Here's how it works, right? You go to prison. I mean, it could be different in different areas, but where we were, you go to prison and they stick you on a top bunk, and then you go on a waiting list for a bottom bunk, right? Because eventually, an inmate on a bottom bunk, people generally want to be on a bottom bunk. It's better, unless you're this guy. So
you could see everything from a top bunk. You see, Mike?
Yeah, I know. I know why you were on the top. I know why you were on the top bunk.
Come on,
but generally, if you don't like climbing up and down all the time,
that does get old.
So they put you on a top bunk, but then you go on a waiting list for when a bottom bunk comes open. Then you're offered the spot, and basically you move up the list as people get bottom bunks and so on. And if it gets to you and they offer you the bottom bunk, they say, "Hey, here's the bottom bunk over here. Do you want it?" You can say no. If you say no, your name goes to the bottom of the list, and you start over. Waitings. So anyway, my first bunkmate was Grover Harris. I don't know how much you were around Grover. That dude's actually evil. Yeah. That dude is evil. Like you say old man, you think, oh, nice old man, grandpa. No, some old people are evil old people who've been evil all their lives. And this dude was like saying some twisted stuff. And there are people who look and you go, this is why this dude.
I think there's some mental issues there too with Grover.
Yeah. So anyway, did not like him. They use
Stanton as a dumping place.
And the thing is, you can't, people generally aren't going to beat him up because he's an old guy. So he gets away with saying all this sick stuff, talking about the sick stuff he's going to do and stuff. Matter of fact, this is kind of a messed up story. Guys, it's a different environment in prison, so don't hold any of this against me. I'm not condoning this behavior, but
you have to realize that this is. I mean, I came to visit. We got to talking, and we thought that this was definitely some input that you guys would find interesting. At least, I mean, Dave is, has made quite a name for himself, and I'm proud to call him my brother and friend and my brother in Christ. But we do have some very good stories to tell you guys. We've known each other forever. So we hope you enjoy this.
Yeah. So Grover, and that should tell you how old he was. I mean, he wasn't tremendously old, but he was like 60s. Probably 60s old, and which would have made him, for the 90s, he would have been born in like the 30s and stuff. Yeah. And that's when, I guess, Grover was still a name, because people generally don't use the name Grover anymore.
Grover Cleveland's the last time I heard Grover,
Yeah, so this dude's evil and stuff. Anyway, it would be count time, and we were all the way in back of the dorms, an 88-man dorm. But they had dividers in between, like 4 double bunks and so on. And so we were all the way in the back. This before I was bunkmates with Kane, so I was all the way in back, and Grover was my bunkmate. But so they call count time, but then you have to stand there for like 5 minutes before they get to you, and the guards are counting everyone. And pretty much every day, they call. I mean, multiple times per day they would call count time. I have to jump down off my bunk, and we just stand there and wait. And every time Grover would turn around and look the other way, I would pretend like I was going to kick him, right? Because just the other guys in the place who all knew this guy's sick and evil, they would crack up laughing because I'm like drawing back like I'm about to kick him, right? And so sometimes I would like start to kick him, but I would like pull back right at the last second, and everyone would laugh, and he'd turn around, and I'd just be looking off into space and stuff. Anyway, one day I was doing that, and everyone's looking at me, and every time he turns around, I go like I'm gonna kick him, and finally I like took a couple steps back and like skipped forward like I was going to kick him, and I actually went to kick him, and I planned to pull back,
right.
But I had on those those heavy shower shoes. These aren't like soft little flip flops. They're heavy
those
sandals.
Brown ones. Yeah. You might it seem like dollar stores, but these things were like rocks.
Yeah, so I pretended I was gonna kick him when he wasn't looking, and I went up and I stopped, but my sandal went flying and kicked him right in the butt, right. And so he turns
called a projectile butt kicking.
So he turns around and he looks at me, and I'm standing there, but I mean I'm missing one sandal and one just him. So he thought I did. Anyway, he grabs all my stuff off my bunk and throws it on the floor. And it's funny because I mean he's an old man, so I mean, and
What
I was being a jerk.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, that was my bunkmate. I did not like my bunkmate. And one day they come, officer comes in. I believe it was Fix. We'll talk more about Fix later. He was a pretty cool dude.
Actually, it was Fix.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Fix came up and said, "Hey, Wood." That's how he talked. There were like two redneck guards there, but Fix came up.
Oh, he was country. I mean,
that
he
dude
was country.
Hey, Wood, we got a bunk over there. It's under Kane. Yeah, right. And at first,
he had me rolling when I first got there. He was funny. I mean, even in such a horrible experience as prison, you do find those little gems, those little moments, you know, of something that's extremely hilarious or extremely, you know, heartfelt or whatever stuff, you know, or ridiculous, you know, which Pix was all of the above.
Yeah. And he was cool, like him and Half, the other country guy. Whenever
that was
they would,
his running partner.
Whenever whenever they would be counting, they would sort of walk down to the end, and as they're walking away, I would go, "Hey, Half, how about after work we go over to the monster truck and tractor rally? And he knew it was me. He'd go, "F you, Wood!" He'd yell it at the end of the door. Anyway, Fix comes up to me and says, "Hey, Wood, you got a bunk open. It's under Kane." I was like, "Oh no, man! I got to go to the bottom of the list because I did not want to go anywhere near this dude." That was like the evil demonic area. There was always a big cloud of smoke over there. That was the area where all the drugs were. That was the tattoo spot. Because this guy is the designated tattoo artist for our dorm.
Yeah, you couldn't tell or anything. Here, sorry, can't use these cameras. As you can see, really slaved out and stuff.
So this was the tattoo artist, and so that's where the drugs were. And I was like, God, I don't want to be over there, man. I don't want to be
I was not
over
doing
there.
drugs,
That's where the crack was. That's where all the meth was. So I was like, no, I don't want to go over there. And then eventually I was like, no, what that, man? What? Maybe I'm supposed to go over there. Maybe I'm supposed to be over there. Maybe I'm offered this spot because I'm supposed to be in that bunk. And so anyway, I accepted the spot, and then I went over there.
He paid well for protection.
Yeah. So,
just kidding.
You remember when I first went over there? Look, I'd be over there.
He tried to come in so tough. I mean, big chest all out and stuff, coming in. I thought, oh boy. I said, man, I'm going to have something to deal with here.
We here said, why you went to prison, Sir David? You can check. That's a long story. We're not focusing on that right now. But if you go to my channel, the video on my homepage of my YouTube channel explains my whole background story. I go into a ton of detail.
Greatly recommended too. It's a very, very sincere story, and I really believe it'll touch your hearts. So there's my, kind of, I guess, accolade to Dave, and stuff. The things I've seen this man go through, and the things I've seen, you do over the years and stuff. I mean, he is an amazing man, and right. You really, really need to check out his channel. It's
possibly the greatest YouTube channel ever.
Now, give me the $20.
That video is the greatest ever.
Are you paying me an hour after the video?
So Rada said, David, you have tattoos. Yeah, I got some. This guy did that one. It's a resurrection scene. Anyway, enough about me. Do you remember I went over when I got the bunk? I'd be over there. I'd be reading. I'd be sitting there reading my Bible.
And watching out for the cops so I could tattoo in peace.
Yeah, so So you'd be sitting there going, you should read the Bible on acid. The words will come off the page and speak to you like they've never spoken before. And then I'd be like, no, I'm not doing that, man. And you go, you started saying that. You go, I notice you always keep a glass of water beside you. Don't worry. One day I'm going to slip some into your water and you're going to understand the Bible like you've never understood it before. And I was like, look, man, if I ever start feeling weird after drinking my water, it's on right there. Anyway, that's
needless to say, I never did it.
That's this guy when I go over there, and you had all this racist crap all over you. all this Aryan, like you guys watch movies, you know, these Aryans and stuff like that. You had that white power on. You had SS tattooed on your arm. You had freaking SS.
Yeah, I'm trying to get the right angle here. Yeah, all of it's covered up. You know, all of it's, you know.
Yeah, but
let me give you a little backdrop. Everybody some backdrop to that, so you don't think that I'm some rabid white supremacist.
No,
or
we're gonna get to you not being.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, basically, when you first go to prison, I went into maximum security because of the severity of my charges, you know, stuff like that. Now, it's at Kane Mountain, which is in the farthest part of Virginia as you could possibly get, you know. And they sent me there because, you know, violence and, you know, things like that. I was a lot different person when I was younger, obviously. And, you know, I just, you know, you kind of click up, you know, with your own. And that's what I did foolishly at first. And within a very short period of time, I realized how stupid it was. And I believe, weren't you there when I got all this stuff covered up?
Yeah, it was after you became a Christian. You got all this crap covered up.
Yeah, stuff.
Matter of fact, look, dude, that was like one of. I've seen some awesome stuff since I became a Christian. So Nabil.
Oh gosh,
so Nabil
awesome,
becoming
man.
a Christian. Yeah. My wife, who was an agnostic when I met her.
Yeah.
Her becoming a Christian. But you getting all, you know, SS and white pride and stuff like that tattooed, covered up.
Yeah, if I don't believe in it, why wear it?
That was that was one of the highlights. It's like, yeah, it's cool. Get that crap up off you.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was cool. But anyway, so yeah, we start off, and you were kind of a pagan at first. I think on some level.
Balance theory. That was my thing. Remember the balance theory? Yeah, I had the balance.
I don't remember.
Theory.
I know
for
you
good,
used to,
for good there had to be evil. For evil there had to be good.
Yeah, I know you used to spout all this weird stuff to me. Yeah.
Yeah, if I see how much you listened, yeah, but well, good thing you didn't listen to me, right? But yeah, I at that point I had subscribed to a balance theory that everything kind of evens itself out. You know, I guess sort of was my philosophy. You know that as much good you do, as much wrong as you do, somehow balances out. In other words, I was still under that. You know. I guess you have to earn your grace, you know, or whatever through good deeds or whatever. Have more good deeds, like the balance scale, like in the Egyptian lore or whatever, you know, where they put a feather on the scale and your sins, you know. I mean, that's kind of where I was at when I met Dave, you know. And that's when we started talking. Yeah. And we became friends first, and then we, you know.
More like arguing.
Yeah, debating. Yeah, I mean, we constantly, hotly sometimes debated, you know. I mean, it sometimes went out for hours, all night sometimes, you know. I grew up in church. Dave didn't. I grew up in church, so I knew all the right words, you know. I knew all the right things to say, all the right arguments and all, but I didn't believe them, you know. That was the problem, you know. I wanted to live life my way. I wanted to do things my way, and you see where it got me. It got me right into a prison cell, you know. So apparently my understanding was definitely not the Lord's understanding at that point in my life. So I believe that Wood was definitely brought back there to my little hellhole for a reason in prison, you know. God works with purpose, you know, in everything he does. So
yeah, and just for some of you keep asking, is this Randy? No, this dude is the opposite of Randy.
No, not Randy, guys. My name's Kane. K-A-N-E, like the wrestler.
The precise opposite of what Randy was like.
Yep. Excuse me, guys.
All right. So
all right, I'm back.
You ended up becoming a Christian eventually.
Yes.
And we had some fun time. But you actually went through a bunch of stuff. Because like right after that your dad went to the hospital.
Yeah, and then he passed away. Yeah. Yeah, I lost my dad while I was in prison. You know, it was a very tumultuous time in my life. I mean, obviously and stuff. I mean, but that really didn't have anything to do. I mean, that happened after actually I had dedicated my life to Christ and stuff. You know, I lost my dad. A lot of other things happened in my personal life. You know, I guess it's that thing, you know, that once you give your life to Christ, the enemy's not too happy about that, and is going to come at you, you know, with everything he's got, you know, stuff. So I didn't really understand that at that point, and I couldn't understand why bad things kept happening to me, you know, like, you know, family dying, you know, friends dying, things happening out, you know, on the street that I had no control over, you know, stuff like that. You know.
And just so you guys know, Kane ended up becoming one of my best friends of all time. I mean,
yeah,
you know,
absolutely. Dave, I would drive to see Dave no matter where he was in the country. You know,
Yeah.
even though he lives in in the middle of nowhere, I'm still here. So,
give him my address, why don't you?
well, yeah, it's Alaska, Juneau, yeah.
So
121 Main Street.
Hey, I'll tell you. I mean, it'll take a little bit.
I'll give you my address, but you show up, you're gonna have some real problems on your hands.
This will take a little bit on how I realized. Yeah, guys, you meet a few friends in your lifetime where you could say, this is a guy I would trust with the lives of my kids if someone was about to kill them, and this is a guy if he were driving down the street and 200 guys were beating me to death, they'd be beating two of us to death. You know what I mean? It's like you meet a couple of people like that in your life. But you remember sometimes we would like break up fights.
Yeah,
back in the day. Mm-hmm. So the biggest
your
one.
Your favorite bathroom? Your wood to the rescue for the poor guy in the bathroom getting beat up. You want to tell that one?
No, yeah. So anyway, they're I was a Christian, and it sucks because there are these two sets of rules, right?
Yeah.
Here's what I'm supposed to do as a Christian, and here's what I'm supposed to do. This is like the code of the convict and so on. The rules you're supposed to follow, but. Basically, if a fight broke out, I would try to break it up, and I'd basically run up in the middle of the two guys, figure out which one is most reasonable or which one I knew better, and I would just get in his face and be like, "Come on, man, you want to go home? You want to go home? You want to go home? You don't want to do an extra? You want to do an extra 2 years for this guy? Do you want to do 2 more years for this guy right here? Do you like him that much, right?" And it would pretty much work. So there was Dex and Floyd. Those guys fought. Those guys were fighting. They fought from the bathroom.
Big
yeah,
boy,
if you guys see Predator. If you see Predator,
make him invisible. Put dreads on
the guy. No, not the Predator. In the movie Predator, there was a guy, Bill Duke. I forget what his name was in Predator, but Bill Duke. He's the one. Anytime.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Dex looked exactly like that guy, except he was way more muscular. He was
ripped.
So if you can't think of who I'm talking about, keep in mind almost everyone in Predator was big and ripped, and Dex was way bigger than Bill Duke was. But he got in a fight with this dude named Floyd, and Floyd was a big dude, but he had like a big belly and stuff like that. I didn't find out until later why he was doing so well fighting Dex. He said basically how for 20 years of his life, he said, we go get drunk on the weekend and you fight and you fight everyone in the bar and stuff like that. And I'd be knocking dudes out every weekend of my life. So they get in this big fight. Lockers are flying all over the place and stuff as they're going around. Anyway, we break that fight up and stuff, and we pull Dex back. And I remember you kept tripping him because he kept trying to go. So I'm standing in front, but he's hard to hold back because he's massive. And so you kept hooking his feet with your legs to trip him. Anyway.
It works, guys. It does. It really works.
So that wasn't the point, but broke that fight up. Billy and
tell about the gang beatdown that you almost ran into.
Oh yeah. One second. And then there was that 5%er they called Head. That's not a perverted thing. He just had this giant head, so people just called him Head. But he kept trying to stud. He was trying to stab Buck, and Buck is one of the old men, right? There's like 3 old men.
He was like 72 years old, you know. I mean, but just sick enough. He's in there, yeah.
And so Head keeps running, trying to stab him, and I'm just all I keep doing is pushing him back, right? I keep pushing him back, and it's cool because he could have taken a swipe at me, but he didn't. He's going after Buck, right? Yeah. He just kept I just kept pushing him back. But Buck, this old guy behind me, just won't shut up, right? He's like, I'll bust your head open with this lock. You come over here. And so I'm stuck between.
Oh, he would have too. He would have too. He tried to, at least.
I'm stuck between these guys. Anyway, I would always try to break up fights. And some of the time, Kane did not like that because you're not supposed to get it. Basically, it's part of the, I guess you call it convict code. I've heard it called in like classes and so on.
Mind your own business.
Mind your own business. If it's got nothing to do with you, you didn't see it, you weren't there, stay out of it, stay out of other people's business. And but I would still do it. One night we would, if we were playing chess or something like that, we'd sit down kind of on opposite sides of my bunk. We'd use our foot lockers as seats, and then you got the bed in between. You put a chessboard or something like that. Anyway, we're sitting there, and you could hear a fight start in the bathroom. It's a big communal bathroom, so there are like 6 toilets, 4 urinals, and then like 6 sinks.
There's 8 sinks altogether.
In this big communal bathroom.
With
and
2 entrances.
2 entrances. And you could hear when a fight starts because it sounds like a basketball game. You hear people's sneakers squeaking on the floor and stuff like that if they're fighting. And so we start hearing that squeak, 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 and I'm like, hey, there's a fight in the back, fight in the bathroom. Let's go break it up. And you were like, what? And he grabs me as I'm trying to get up. And he goes, what? You need to stay out of other people's business, man. You don't understand. You're gonna get messed up one day for busting into someone else's business and stuff. And I go, no, man, no, someone might need help, right? So you're like, look, what? I told, stop. And I pulled away, right? And so I bolt over there. And so there are 2 entrances. I go through the far one, and as I'm going in there, I see what it is. It's a gang initiation. It's not a normal fight, right? It's a guy who was a prospect for the gang 187. It's the code for murder, right? Yeah. He's a prospect for 187. He's finally getting beaten into the gang, right? And I'm not gonna stop you from getting beaten into a gang, right? I'm not gonna jump.
You're idiotic enough to do that, then okay.
So I see what it is because I go through the entrance where this initiation is taking place, and I go in there. So I stop when I see what it is, and I'm about to turn around, and through the other door, Kane busts in there, and he's like, "Hey, break this up now!" And I turn, I'm like, "Wait a minute, this guy thinks I'm dead wrong. He thinks I'm dead wrong for going in to break up this fight."
Well, because you went in there, I didn't have a choice. You know?
That's what I thought.
I had to get your back.
That's what I thought was awesome.
I'm not gonna
right?
let you go run off by yourself again.
That's what I thought was awesome. Because so Kane comes in there, I'm like, this is initiation. But anyway, I walk out and I'm like, man, this dude thinks I'm dead wrong, and he's still not going to let me get the crap beat out of me, by myself. So anyway,
well, that's what friends are for.
Yeah,
I mean, that is the definition of true friendship, is looking out for each other, and we have certainly did that. When I was incarcerated and David gotten out and stuff, this a little bit later on, one thing you find about prison is almost like it's like dying. Everybody forgets about you. It's like you don't exist anymore. And that makes me feel guilty because there's still a lot of people back in prison that I was very close to that I don't keep in contact with because of life. Mm-hmm. We all have things we need to do, and it's hard to keep up, with that. But Dave took care of me while I was in prison. He sent me money. He sent me encouraging letters, to keep my faith up. Things like that. You don't find that quality in very many people, and I would certainly suggest that any of you, if you have a close friend like that and stuff, you need to hold on to them, and you need to make sure that it's reciprocal, mm-hmm. that's reciprocated, I mean,
think about this, right? Like, I knew you way before Nabil, way before my wife, other people I'm around right now. I mean, apart from a couple family members.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really talk to many more people than him and a few other people. That's it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So you became a Christian and put up with my fight stopping adventures. I learned you're pretty cool, and we ended up getting into some other adventures because it's still weird to think about it, right? Because in prison it's
still almost unbelievable, kind of how this whole went down.
You have you have Christians in prison. Mm-hmm. You have Muslims in prison. You have lots of cults. You have lots of cults in prison.
Satanists, Odinists, you name it, they're there.
So there's the 5%, there's the Nation of Islam, and so on.
There's the 1%ers, those are the bikers. So I mean, not like the regular bikers. These are the killers, the bad ones,
And so, but the ones that, the ones where I was like, what are you guys doing? You had the group of devil worshippers, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like, dude, do you know where you are? You're a little group of devil worshippers. You're in prison, right? And then what was even weirder than that for me was the dude Oaks, who started a group of Wiccans there, right? These are witches, everyone. These are witches.
There's no difference between white magic and black magic. Magic is magic, and it comes from one source. Come on, guys. So common sense.
This dude Oaks was a high priest of Wicca, right? He's a high priest of Wicca who gets locked up. And could this dude have played Gandalf in a movie or not?
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, he had like long gray hair.
Oh, he had the long blonde beard and the long white hair, and I mean, he looked like something out of Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, he did.
And so this guy's in, and so you're thinking, hey, this Wiccan dude is getting people to his little spell meetings and stuff. And you're thinking, no one's going to do that, but he had the characteristics of a cult leader, right?
Oh yeah.
And so this is cult leaders. They have these manipulative personality, and they can make even if they're spouting nonsense, they can make it sound good. Yeah. And so he actually ended up getting a couple young guys from the church to start going over to his meeting. And part of you is thinking, well, look, if you're stupid enough to go and follow this witch, then you kind of deserve what you get. But on the other hand, you're thinking, hey, these young bucks, man, we're supposed to be looking out. We're supposed to be looking out for them. And so you're the one who actually had the idea for a showdown. Kane's sitting there and he's going, look, why don't we just do it like Elijah did? Why don't we just do it like Elijah did? He said, look, I'll go down there. I'll challenge him to cast a spell, right? I'll give him whatever he needs. If he wants hair, fingernail clippings, if he wants my blood, I'll give him my blood. He can cast a spell, and we'll let everyone see the results. And so,
they saw the results all right 6 months later.
Yeah.
Would you like to fill them in?
Yeah. So we thought that was a cool idea. But we kept kind of putting it off and never actually going down there, because you would have band practice at the same time they would have their meetings and stuff like that. Anyway, eventually
always something would come up. It was funny. Yeah.
Eventually, Goob, he was the leader of the devil worshippers, right? We're not. That was his nickname in prison. He was apparently like marked.
We would need hours to.
He was apparently Goob was not some weirdo who got involved in Satanism because it was cool when he was growing up. This guy was like marked from birth by other people who were in it and so on. So he's set aside from birth for Satanism and so on.
He got a real raw deal. Yeah, I mean, he really, really did.
He was messed up.
I mean, he was a good guy. I want to make that clear, because I don't want to speak ill of the dead, and stuff. I mean, just he was a good man somewhere down deep inside of him, and he struggled.
Yeah, he was messed up. Yeah, and you'd see him go back and forth. And this was actually one of the times where he was like, wait a minute, these guys are nice to me. I'm going to tell him. And he comes up and he says, he says, look, man, Oaks had me get some I think some threads from our clothes or some hair from our heads or something like this. Oaks had me get some
hair from the hairbrush and your toothbrush.
Yeah,
that's what it was.
Oaks had me get some of you guys' stuff so he could cast a spell on you, because I told him you were going to come down there and challenge him, and so he cast a spell to keep you guys from coming down there and challenging him. And I was like, crap! And we haven't been going down there, but it's because of like scheduling stuff, not because I know, right? He's actually kept us.
We had to work our schedule around a freaking witch.
Yeah. So you had band practice, and I was like, I'm just running down there with Dean. Right. It was Dean Hallberg. Oh crap! I shouldn't be using last names because people can look people up. I guess that's a pretty common enough name that you probably can't find the actual dude. But I go down there with Dean, and I'm like about to go in there and go, so you cast a spell on us, huh? You cast a spell, wizard?
Meanwhile, I had forgotten about it. I had completely forgotten about it. Yeah.
And so, I mean, getting down there is actually, it was funny I was kind of annoyed. It's like, wait a minute, you got Wiccans and devil worshippers working together, casting spells on us?
It can't be good.
Yeah. So I'm going down there. I'm about to go full Elijah on this dude. I go down there, and I'm sitting with all these young bucks who were there for the meeting. Mm-hmm. And finally, Oaks walks in. It's me and Dean sitting on one side of the table, and Oaks comes down. He sits in the open spot there, and so me and Dean are over. This is Oaks. Me and Dean are over there. He sits down like this. I'm not exaggerating, even slightly. He sits down like this, and like shielding his eyes from us, and his hand is shaking, and whenever he's moving, his other hand is shaking. I'm not exaggerating like this. In fact, I don't even think I can shake as much as he was shaking, right? And so I'm thinking,
how much weight he started losing?
Yeah. Well, that's when he announced it. We had no clue. Yeah. He's sitting there shaking, and he says, "I know we were supposed to I have a meeting tomorrow. I just want to say I never use my magic to hurt anyone. And I'm like, what the heck is wrong with this guy, right?
Actually, I just remember he pulled me to the side, actually, right in front of the building that he was in, and apologized.
Yeah.
That's right before he died. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's sitting there and he's shaking. That's when he announces. He goes, "Anyway, I'm being taken to a different place. I was just taken in for an evaluation, and I was diagnosed with full blown lung cancer and 2 brain tumors." And so that's why he was like terrified. And so he said
it was a rare brain cancer that they rarely ever see. That was the thing that's so compelling about it, was the fact of what he got attacked with. You know, I mean, it's
yeah. So they took him away, and he was gone for, I don't know, 6 months and stuff. And he came back, and there was like this shell of a human being. I saw him a couple of times and had no clue who it was.
It was sad.
You're the one who told me. Yeah, you're the one who came up to me and said, "Hey, Oaks is back." I was like, "What?"
He was already a really skinny older guy. I mean, it looked like a walking skeleton.
Yeah, he looked cool at first, and then he looked like, I mean, it was like this pale
Yeah,
head.
it was
and a big scar down the middle of his head and so on. And so he was there for a little while. And so you talked to him at some point out in front of the building, and then he was eventually taken to.
I was over there getting medication and he was standing outside, because remember, it was right by medical. Yeah,
it was cool because the Gilmer brothers. So there were two brothers there. Their last names were Gilmer, but they were like hardcore, like nice Christians. But they said they were going and talking to him as much as they could. Eventually, he was taken to a hospice where he died. So that was Oaks. And the other guy in that story was Goob,
the
devil worshiper. And so you've actually seen messed up stuff with Goob, right?
Oh, yeah. I'll tell you what, like as far as putting my hand on the Bible and sitting in court, and swearing to this, I don't know if I could do that, but I'm at 99%. Mm-hmm. It was at nighttime.
That's beyond a reasonable doubt, though, so you could swear on it in court.
Well, yeah, I guess. Well, yeah, I mean, it's my word, so yeah, exactly. But anyways, it was weird. I looked over, and it was like he was chanting, but he wasn't making any noise. Mm-hmm. Like his mouth was like, I mean, over moving, kind of. And then I seen his body literally come up a little bit off the bed, and then slowly come back down. Now, if he had just dropped, I would have said maybe he just pushed himself up and fell back down, Mm-hmm. But there is no way. I mean, he was lifted up off that bed and then put back down. Not only that, I believe I also told you the story about the gentleman that slept by the bathrooms. He was literally picked up in the air and thrown to the ground. So, I think old Scratch was quite busy there. The good old Stanton. There's a lot of weird stuff that happened there.
That was a creepy place. Again, especially if you weren't here earlier, part of this prison was a psychiatric hospital going back to the 1800s Civil War times, and I never had anything creepy.
No, I did, but I mean,
other people did, but some of it was kind of.
It actually was kind of funny. Whatever it was, like to grab people's toes and feet. Yeah. And I swear, I thought it was him. I swear, I laid awake. I was laying in wait for you that night because I said he's going to grab my feet and jump back into bed. So I waited and waited. Somebody grabbed my feet. I sat straight up. There was not a single person up. Now, you tell me what that was. I mean, come on.
If I were to do something, I would have taken some toilet paper, put it between your toes, and lit it on fire, and then hid. And then you wouldn't know who did it.
That sounds about right, yeah.
So, there was creepy stuff going on, but sometimes it would actually be funny. There was that dude who worked in the kitchen. They all knew he was terrified of ghosts.
Oh, gosh, yes.
Those
were 2 guards that got him, not inmates.
There was 2 guards and the guy who ran the entire kitchen system and stuff. In fact, it was fixing health.
Yeah,
it was fixing health.
Those
rednecks. But anyway, here. So I worked in the stock room at this time. The stock room is attached to the kitchen, so I have all the food back there, and then you give it to the cooks and they cook it up. But then that's attached to the old building, right? The old mental hospital, which again we just used for storage. That's where
Right.
paper towels and stuff like that would go, because they take
Dusty,
the boxes. Yeah, the boxes
covered in sheets. Like,
Yeah,
like imagine that kind of building.
the boxes for an entire prison and stuff. They take up a lot of space, so they'd store them back there in the rooms that weren't like falling through. But so I walked back there. There's like an old organ from the 1800s, a little church area and stuff like that. Pretty creepy stuff back there when you're looking. It's like this is like when you think about what was going on back in the 1800s.
It was like walking back in history, literally.
So they knew one dude was terrified of ghosts, and it's simultaneously funny, but it's kind of messed up because again, the guy's legitimately scared and stuff. So the guy who George, the guy who who headed the
George. Okay, I know exactly what you're talking about.
So he was in charge. He was the manager for the kitchen and all that stuff. So he tells this guy to come back into the building with him to grab some stuff. So come back in here. Hey, we're going to come back and grab some supplies. And the dude is like, take someone else, right? And so he said, no, come on, I'll be with you and stuff. Anyway, he had Fix back there, and Fix is going, and George is back there going, and the guy's going, what was that? What was that? And George will go, oh, that's just Bessie. She doesn't hurt anybody, blah, blah, blah. She's been here for a century. What, right? And so anyway, there are things to lock doors and stuff back there. So George actually like locks him in to a room back there and then leaves. And this dude just starts like freaking out, like flinging himself up against it and stuff. So eventually George goes back to let him out. Yeah. And George said, because these guys are all telling the story immediately after it happens. I wasn't there, but I'm there when all these guys come out and say what happened. I saw the end of it. I saw the end of it when the guy comes running out, falls down, bolts for the door, and says and then starts flipping out, saying, "You guys are messing with me! You guys are messing with me!" And he says that he needs to go back to his room to change his pants because he had soiled his pants. But anyway, I got the story. So George goes back, opens the door.
Stiller, really? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So George said, as soon as the door opens, boom! The guy flies by him. Right? He flies by him running, and Fix said, I heard him run, right? And so he said, right as he's going by me, I reach out and grab his shoulder, and grab him. Fix said the dude flipped out, lands flat on his face, jumps back up, doesn't even look back to see it's Fix, right? Doesn't even look back, jumps up, and Fix said it was like in Scooby-Doo where their legs would be moving, but they're still in place, right?
He was getting like a warm-up before he started running.
Yeah. So he bolts out of there, and that's when he has to go change his drawers and stuff. It's funny because Fix comes out and he goes, well, what happened? What happened there? And so anyway, that's like. Anyway, I don't even know why we're telling this story, just because it's apart from it being a funny story.
Because it's hilarious, you know. I mean, you have to be there, kind of thing. But it was funny.
There were people who were just constantly creeped out by all the creepy stuff going on there. With that said, Fix was pretty cool. Yeah. Like Fix was cool because like when Dex and Floyd got in a fight, right? Yeah. Fix was the guy who he doesn't want to write charges. He doesn't want to get people in trouble and stuff like that. He would come back there and go, guys, is this over? Is this over? And you know, it's cool because he can get in trouble for that. If the warden or something finds out that Fix is letting people slide on fights as long as it's over and stuff because you don't want to get him in trouble, then Fix would get in trouble. And Half, I actually locked Half in the stockroom. There was a room that had the chemicals in it, right? That had all the chemicals, like, we
weren't allowed back in those areas for obvious reasons.
Bleach, floor stripper. You couldn't be around floor stripper unless you're under supervision because people would take a cup of that, stick it in a microwave, heat it up, and fling it in someone's face, and then all your flesh melts off, right? It's called
Just real quick for the listeners, I am not Randy, by the way.
Not Randy.
I know. I see everybody.
Randy.
I'm Kane. It's stuff and all. But yes, Randy. Randy was indeed a great man. It's stuff, and hopefully he'll be sitting with David, at some point too.
So, but one.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just seen Randy. Oh, I can't believe Randy did these things. Oh no, Randy did not do anything.
Like,
that was
Randy's
me.
such a jerk. Racist jerk.
Yeah, Randy was a jerk, not me. So, just kidding, guys.
So Half was Half had to go in to get some chemicals one time, and I was the only one back there. I was the only one working in the stock room, and Half had to go in to get some chemicals. And he'd been running his mouth about something. I was like, man, screw this. I'm locking him in here. So I actually locked him in from the outside, right? And it was cool because he pretended to be calling back up on his walkie-talkie until I opened the door, and it turns out he was just faking. Like even then, right? Even then, an inmate locks him in a room filled with chemicals, and he's still he's still not actually gonna get me in trouble. So yeah, Fix was cool. Half was cool guys. But back to.
By the way, it said Randy's in the chat.
Randy's not
Randy
in the chat.
Way he could be in the chat. Okay, I'm just checking with you.
No, okay. Randy's still locked up.
Oh,
so
much on it, all right.
So
I thought you said
no, he had 21 felonies. Fix, Half, then back to the devil worshipping group.
Yeah. So
we had Goob.
Yeah.
He's the leader of the devil worshippers, which I thought was, dude, you not know where you are, right? But there were a couple of them who were really into it, and there was Rick. Can you verify? This is one of the few people. You sometimes.
I knew you were going to bring up Rick.
You sometimes think that someone is. Hey, maybe this guy's like demon possessed, but with Rick, that's one of like the handful of people. That's one of the handful of people where I was like, that dude is possessed by a demon.
And I have personal backup for this. On the weekends, they used to let us stay up all night. Friday night, Saturday night. Excuse me for a second. Again, sorry, I just had oral surgery done 2 weeks ago. Little problems talking sometimes.
You're talking trash about me. You're going to need surgery again.
Yeah.
Oh, snap. Oh, burn.
Did you get my... no. Okay. No, what happened was, so we could stay up every Friday and Saturday night, all night, whatever. Watch TV, draw, whatever you wanted to do, So I walk out into the day room portion, which is in between two dorms, huge dorms, on each side. I walk into the day room, and here he is standing, literally in the middle of the day room with his arms down by his sides, just staring at me. And keep in mind, this guy's not really big, but he's covered in cigarette burns that his dad left on him, and cigar burns, and he could bench.
Was shredded.
He was like 5'7",
but
maybe 150 pounds, and could do 320 10 times on the bench.
Yeah, the most
I can't do 320.
The most we had on the yard. Yeah, the most
times.
we had on the yard was 320, and you got this devil worshiper
tiny
out
little
there just,
thing
just
out there.
Crushing it.
Yeah, I mean, he's repping it like it was 100 pounds. So he comes up and gets in my face. I mean, literally gets this close to me, and he says, "I hate you, Kane." And I'm just like, it's not very much in your life somebody just comes right up to your face and says, "I hate you," so I'm sort of like, okay, stuff. And I knew what it was about. It was about me becoming Christian and stuff. And a lot of the guys that I had been running with weren't very happy about that decision, as you know. And, he said, the usual guy stuff, a little banter went back and forth between us. But let me tell you something, though, that I observed when he walked up on me. The heat radiating off him, I would say was every bit of, I'd say 160 to 200 degrees, somewhere in there. It felt like that, at least. It felt like an opened oven door. Mm-hmm. And when I looked in his eyes, those were not his eyes. I was looking at something very old. You
could actually see his face change. He would look normal and be listening to himself.
His and features all of a sudden, would change.
Yeah,
like somebody doing this with their face, and then their face is totally different.
And the stuff that he would say when he changed.
Yes,
I don't even want to repeat it. Like
what's
even
beyond his intelligence
you don't
or
see this,
whatever level.
You don't see this as far as the level of blasphemy coming out of his mouth.
It's
stuff you never heard on any movie about devil worshippers and demonic
possession. We won't even talk about the tongue, the Aramaic stuff.
You've not heard stuff
coming
out of someone's mouth. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, well, he started speaking like in another language, and I think it was Aramaic. I mean, which we're dating this back now, 4,000 years or so, and I got to say that was at one point where I really did call on the Lord to protect me because I felt in very imminent physical danger, and I'm not easy, to beat up, you know what I mean? And this little dude literally has me scared to death because I didn't know what he was going to do. I mean, it felt like a pit bull was like 1 inch from my face about to bite my face off. I mean, that's what it felt like. But I stood my ground, and stuff, and I told him, I said, do whatever you think you feel is necessary. He stared at me for about another 30 seconds and walked away. You know, he came back to himself, I think is what happened, and didn't realize what he was doing standing there. So, yeah, demon possession and stuff like that, I absolutely believe in. And in prison, it's rampant. That is not the only example that I have. I have many other stories that I could, maybe we'll get into it another time, but I have a lot of stories that I've had direct, contact with that. And let me tell you, when you have the Lord in your heart, you have nothing to fear. Stuff. I might have been scared, but I wasn't scared. You know what I mean? Like, as far as, spiritually.
You remember, I don't know if you remember this because we'd never talked about it, but there was, so the bunk directly across from us, there was a 5%er who used to be on top, but below that there was
Mackenzie.
After Mackenzie, after Mackenzie went, I don't know where he went, but I think he got out or something like that. There was a dude under there, but he started howling and so on.
I don't know. Sleep. I don't remember his name, but I know who you're talking about.
But he was. This was when
he didn't last too long.
This was when me, you, and Sky were evangelizing so many people on the floor that one day during a church service, someone said, "Would everyone from the third floor of whatever, I don't even remember what building we were in, would everyone from the third floor of so and so stand up?" And like an entire crowd stood up, and Satterwhite goes, "I don't know who's working, but someone's working up there, right?"
Yeah.
But everyone is coming to church with us and so on, and and one day this dude just wakes up everyone in the middle of the night, like 3:00 a.m., and he's howling in like the creepiest sound I've ever heard in my life. But he's like a normal, cool guy. He's not
Remember
like a weirdo.
Who else used to do? Goober used to do the same thing. Just as a point.
Yeah. So this guy's going, and he's going, "You three guys," and he's howling, "You three guys, you three guys."
And
you
we
three
finally
guys.
are like, wait a second.
Yeah. I go over and I wake him up, and he looks up and he goes, "Hey, what's up?" And I go, "Hey, you all right, man?" He goes, "Yeah, what's up?" And I go, "You're like screaming you woke up the entire dorm." He's like, "I did what?" And so anyway, creepy. But you just get this creepy feeling when it's going on. Anyway, so you had Goob, Rick, Troy, couple stragglers, but they were the main ones. And the guy used to play guitar, Steve, that redheaded young buck. And we always ended up in these situations where we're trying to look out for these young guys who are being preyed upon by other people, but the devil, he starts getting into the devil worship stuff for a while with them. And then we get him out of that. And I remember I came back from the chow hall one day, and you were there praying with him. You were there praying with him, and he had he was, man,
I cried over that. I cried over that guy, man. I mean, even after, man, because he had AIDS. Remember, I don't know if you've mentioned that yet.
Goob? Oh, yeah. I'm not talking about him. I'm talking about Steve.
Okay.
Steve,
my bad. I got
follow the story, man. So Steve.
All right, I got you. Steve
would play. Steve would play the guitar.
He got into it.
He started messing around with them, and then you got him out of it. I came back, and you were praying with Steve one day.
Yes. Okay. Now that makes sense. Yeah.
And then. I just heard you talk to him. I wasn't trying to jump in there, but he was just talking about how they tricked him into going along with him and stuff.
Yeah.
And so this was a few days after that. I don't remember if I was walking with you or someone else, but Steve comes running up and he goes, "You gotta help me! They're threatening me. Rick is gonna do this." And he was terrified of Rick because Rick could have ripped him apart.
A lot of people were terrified of Rick. Trust me. Yeah.
So he's going, they're gonna do this and that to me, and I said, don't worry about it. I'll take care of it and stuff. And that's when, before then. So going back maybe a week or two before then, I slapped the crap out of Goob, right? And I'm not condoning this. No, it wasn't his face. It was on his forehead, right? It's when
an awareness exercise.
He told people because it was in a spot where he was friends with us, and he's coming along with us, and sometimes he come to church with us and stuff like that. But he bragged to someone that he was a wolf in sheep's clothing, infiltrating in order to deceive people, right?
Yeah.
And so at that point, I was just decided I was going to wash my hands of him, right? Like I'm not messing with you. If I can't
Dust
trust you,
yeah.
So I went in the bathroom and I got a bar of soap and I lathered up my hands, right? And I was just going to walk out and show him the soap in my hands, saying, I'm washing my hands of you, man. I'm done with you. But I walked out and he had this stupid, arrogant look on his face. And so I slapped him on his head, right? So I slapped him back and I said, I'm done with you. And instead of like he started focus. He didn't know what that was. He thought it was like holy oil or something like that. And he started flipping out.
What
was that? He started going, yeah. What was that? What is that? What did you put on me? Right. And he
probably was burning him. I mean, yeah, because thing is psychosomatic. He probably thought the holy oil was burning.
I never told him. I just walked away. So again, guys, not condoning the behavior. No. Prison is a different environment. It was heat of the moment against a guy who's like going after all these young guys. Yeah. And I ended up slapping him in the head. So anyway, a little later, that's when Steve comes running up and stuff like that. I say, all right, don't worry about it. And I go down, and it's Goob, Rick, and Steve sitting in the cafeteria. And I walk by with my tray, and I go, Goob. I got in his head again. I go, Goob, yeah. I'm going to tell you this one time. You stay away from Steve, or I'm getting my father after you. Right? Anyway, I poked him in the head. And he goes, ooh. So anyway, so I walked away and I said, all right, that's done. He goes, hey, wait. Right? Anyway, I walked away.
Start copping deuces then, yeah.
I walked back up in the dorm. I don't remember how many. It was a couple of us. One or two others, and I was like, guys, let's pray for the Lord to deal with this guy, because he's obviously treating this as a joke, going after this young guy.
Yeah, we weren't getting anywhere, it seemed like. Yeah.
We got together, prayed for God to deal with this problem, and it was just God.
That was just beyond our understanding and beyond our comprehension.
It was just God, get rid of him. And it was a couple hours later. The alarm goes off. The alarm. That means everyone go back, and you're going to be counted.
Right.
We don't find out until later that Troy and Rick that evening tried to escape, and Goob didn't try to escape, but he was locked up for planning their escape. And then you heard from Bowles, who was in their little Satanist seance, that a demon appeared to them that evening and said, if you go right now, I will help you escape.
I don't know why these idiots always came to me, but for some reason, everybody at that prison, everybody at that prison and stuff, if they were involved in some kind of horrible thing or whatever, they assumed that I must be down with it, because, I mean, keep in mind, I came from maximum security to a medium security, so I guess I can kind of see that a little bit, but, I mean, it was ridiculous. They would come running to me with all this stuff, and they would sometimes run the wood with the stuff, and it's like, I really think it was a cry for help more than it was, like they wanted us to take care of their problem. I kind of really got that impression on a couple people. And then, like with Goob, and I will say this, toward, his thing, I think he got himself, I think he signed a contract kind of in his mind that he should never have signed. And it doesn't mean that I mean, as far as giving your soul to the devil or whatever, you don't have to go out in the middle of a yard and slaughter a chicken and say that. It's about the way you live. It's about the way you carry yourself, things like that. And I think Goob got so into the drug scene and so into, I mean, he was homeless. I mean, before prison, he had a really rough time of it, and he turned to the wrong thing. I mean, his upbringing and everything didn't help either.
So Goob had AIDS, and he got it from.
Can I tell? I know exactly what it was from.
Drug use.
I tell you the exact story.
And he knew it, right? He knew the guy had AIDS.
No. And he knows the exact moment he got it. He told me the story. I forgot to tell you this. Okay, well, first time premiere. Here you go. This is how Goob got AIDS.
This is new stuff.
This might be the
you
title.
Didn't know. None of you out there know how Goob got AIDS.
This is premiering knowledge of how Goob got AIDS. Okay. What happened was he was under an underpass with another individual. I'm not even going to say sex or anything like that. Just say another individual. And they were getting ready to, I don't know about YouTube's rules.
You don't need to know all that.
Okay. They were about to do something you're not supposed to do. Yeah. Okay. You guys get the idea. But anyways, they didn't have any water. So he took the needle the guy had just used rainwater out of the gutter to prepare his thing, and he said, I knew when I was pushing that plunger that I had just gotten AIDS. He said he knew the second he got it, which I personally believe is very, very spiritual there too. I mean, he knew what he was doing was wrong.
Yeah, he said he didn't care.
Yeah,
he didn't care
and he said he just didn't care, and he disobeyed God, and he did that, and he ended up with AIDS. I mean, one thing I do have to say about him, he didn't go around crying about it all the time. Yeah, he was.
No,
he was kind of feel bad for me.
Yeah, he was kind of. He could be. He would use it at times. Like one time,
one time
someone stole a jar of Goob's coffee. Right? He had a jar filled with like Maxwell House coffee or something.
It's a good strategy, guys.
Someone stole it, and all of a sudden it was count time. Anyone who wanted to yell something out at everyone to make an announcement, you do it right when the door closed after count time, because everyone's sitting there. And so as soon as the door closed, you hear, "Hey, whoever stole my coffee, better check yourself before you wreck yourself." He goes, "I have AIDS and I spit in it and I hope you get it." He found his jar of coffee.
If anybody's HIV positive, we're not laughing at that. Yeah. We're laughing at the incident.
We're laughing at Goob being funny, using this to his advantage. He found his coffee in the garbage can later.
At least he got his coffee back.
Yeah. So anyway, that was the last time I saw these dudes.
Yeah.
And it was just amazing that it was right then. It was like 2 hours after hey, I'm gonna get my father after you, and then last time I see any of these dudes. So anyway, that was sort of next. Certain things stand out in your mind more than the others. The other thing that stands out in my mind a lot before I left, because this is how I ended up leaving, was starting to get involved with Islam. So remember Barnhill?
Yes.
We were both friends with Barnhill. Barnhill was my weightlifting partner for like 5-6 months. Whenever we could, we hit the gym.
It's even more than that. Yeah. So, you guys hung out a lot.
So this is like the first Muslim that I hung out with and talked to. He was the imam, the inmate imam of the community there. And,
he never did me wrong. He was a nice guy.
I really, to this day, I like him. Now he was in there. He shot a pastor and stabbed the pastor's wife while kidnapping the daughter, and then converted to Islam when he got locked up. So he actually had some messed up. I actually looked it up when I was out and I actually found it. But so yeah, that's what Barnhill was in there for. Anyway, I had a messed up past too, so we shared our stories. We ended up as weightlifting partners, and we discussed Christianity and Islam. So I wasn't studying Muslim sources, but I would learn as I go, right? They're handing out their Muslim tracts and stuff, and I would go look up what they're saying. And I actually respected Barnhill because, and you actually went and talked to him, because I found a track and they were talking about Bible verses and so on. And
didn't they have something wrong or something? No, it was the numbers. Remember the numbers of people that went out. They said, "Oh, it's a contradiction," and this is a contradiction, and we all know it's not contradiction.
One of the things was Muhammad, and suppose
Muhammad was
name,
never mentioned in the Bible ever. I challenge anybody, $200. Find the name Muhammad in a King James Bible, I'll give you $200.
This was the first time I encountered the Muhammad in Song of Solomon argument. Because keep in mind, it was all new to me back then, and I went and looked up the word in a Bible dictionary. And then I tried to tell him, but then you were breaking it down to him. You're like, look, what's he wrong about? Here it is, right here. This is not what it says. And it was cool. Why I respected him was they stopped handing that out. Stopped handing that out, right? So,
it was a lie. Yeah. I mean, that's one thing. I mean, I got to say that most of the Muslims I had dealt with, at least there at Stanton and all, were halfway decent, pretty good people. I mean, I didn't have any problems with them or anything. I mean, obviously, religiously, we weren't in lockstep, but
then some problems arose.
Yeah,
it started with Satterwhite.
That's when things started getting a little bit uglier.
Yeah.
As they always do.
I mentioned Satterwhite earlier. Satterwhite was he was an ex Nation of Islam guy. He was in there for bank robbery and so on. Had been in the Nation of Islam. Now he was getting he wasn't terribly old, but he was What do you think? 50, early 50s, something like that. 50s.
I'd say about 50.
Super nice guy, right? This
The
guy had
nicest guy you'll ever
this
meet
guy
in
had
your
been like
life,
a violent, angry young guy and became like the nicest Christian in the world. As far as the Christians I've met, like who are like the awesomest Christians I've met, that guy's top 5.
Yeah.
And so he's like the kind of leader of the Christian community.
Well,
there.
he was a leader. I mean, basically was a leader of the Christian community.
That man could have ordered me, David, go do this, and I would have gone and done it just because I had that much respect for him. Anyway, Satterwhite, each of the main religious organizations had their own bulletin board in the cafeteria area. Christians had the best one because they had it right where the line was. So where everyone who was going to breakfast, lunch, or dinner had to wait in line, the Christians had the bulletin board there, and ours was enclosed in plexiglass so that people, as they're standing behind it, couldn't throw stuff on or something.
Yeah, because they like to vandalize stuff like that. Yeah.
So Satterwhite had control of the Christian bulletin board, and he posted this little note. It was no bigger than this, right, on this giant bulletin board, and it just said, "Hey, if you're reading this, there are many false paths." And he named some things, and he said Jehovah's Witness, Islam, and he mentioned a couple of other things, and he said those are false paths, right? So that was it. That was, and he mentioned Islam because he had been Nation of Islam, right? So that was it. He posted that, and then all of a sudden it was gone and so on. And I heard people say that the Muslims had surrounded Satterwhite on the ball field. So so we talked to Satterwhite, and he said basically about a dozen Muslims came up and surrounded him on the ball field. Surrounded him on the ball field and said, "Hey, you need to take that stuff down." And see, there's a right and a wrong way to go about things. Like, even if you want him to take that down, like, I don't think you would be consistent. I mean, your book, the Quran, is filled with commands to violently subjugate us and fight us until we pay you jizya and so on, all sorts of horrible things. So for you to just say, as a Christian, hey, Islam is false, I don't think you could be consistent. Someone else who's not part of any of this conversation say, "Hey, quit being a jerk and messing with people." That's one thing. You guys, how dare you put that up there? That's one thing.
You have to know the whole story.
Yeah. If it had been like Barnhill, so he's the leader of the Muslims. Yeah. If it had been Barnhill coming up to them and saying, "Hey, I just want to pull you aside. We don't want any conflict here. We want to keep everything peaceful. So if you could, take that down," that would be one thing. It was the fact that they surrounded him and like thugged out. And
so it's an intimidation factor and stuff, and they know it's like
the nicest guy in the world. He's like, "Look, man, they wanted me to say, I'm not going to fight over this stuff." So I took it down. So anyway, after that happened, keep in mind my only interactions with Muslims up until then are with Barnhill, and I'm friends with him.
An explosive beginning, and here it is.
Yeah, so
another premiere.
So I told Satterwhite, I was like, "Look, just invent a new church position, person in control of the bulletin board, and make me in charge of that. Give me the key, because there's the key, there's a lock and key and stuff." I said, "Make me in charge of that, and then next time they come and complain to you." You send them. You say, "No, that's David Wood's. I have nothing to do with that. David Wood is in control of that." So Satterwhite says, "Okay," and he hands me the key, and so now I have control of the bulletin board. So it's funny. So I drew this giant serpent, right? This giant serpent head, right, with like these hypnotic eyes, and then like part of the body. The serpent was coming out of the side of the bulletin board right down to the middle. And then I put a big word bubble there. And the serpent was saying, "Hiss, Jesus was just a prophet. Trust me," right? So anyway, I put that on the bulletin board and go ahead and lock it in there and stuff. And then
the outcry was glorious.
And then I keep everyone's seeing it because everyone who eats on the entire camp is standing in front of this thing.
Basically every person in that institution saw that. Yeah.
Is standing in front of that, right?
About 1,000.
And so anyway, later Satan Satan was I called him Zach the Serpent. Anyway, so Satterwhite eventually comes up to me and he said, they surrounded me. They surrounded me on the ball field. I said, "Hey, it's not me. David Wood's in charge of the bulletin board, right?" So I told him it was you, man, and I was like, "Okay, yeah." So I thought either I'm just going to get clocked, right? I'm going to be walking in and back, right? I'm going to get hit. Yeah. But so it was either that, or I was thinking that they're going to surround me like they did Satterwhite. And I was just going to be like, okay, surround me. I was going to be like, no, I'm not taking it down. Let me tell you about your prophet. And then if they wanted to beat me down, they could. Or I was hoping to get into a argument with them, something like that. Because they took me out. Keep in mind, I wouldn't have done that if they hadn't done that to Satterwhite. You know what I mean? I'm not like, hey,
Dave wasn't the one that started the trouble.
Yeah.
He just finished it.
Yeah,
basically.
So so anyway, so here's where things got awesome. Right. So I think I'm either going to get clocked or they're going to surround me. I walk around for 2 days. I make sure I'm walking all over the place. No one ever messes with me. Right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what is going on here? Anyway, then I get called in to the warden's office. I go in there. The warden has this stack of complaints about me and tells me that Muslims are complaining that I hurt their feelings and I'm attacking them, right?
They snitched on them.
I was shocked, right? Wait, you guys just thugged out on Satterwhite. You thugged out on Satterwhite, but you complained to the warden about me?
And never said a word to you.
And didn't, not a word.
Or
right?
to me, you figured it would have come to me, so you need to tell your boy to stop putting stuff up. They didn't even come to me about it. Nothing.
So this was, this, guys, I don't know if you learn nothing about prison from what we're saying here.
Don't ever end up there.
You don't run and complain to the administration about another inmate.
No,
you do not do that.
No.
You do not do that. If you look at like the hierarchy, you have violent crimes up here, and then other crimes, and then down at the bottom you have child molesters, and then below child molesters you have snitches, right? You don't complain to the administration. They did. They went and complained to the administration. And I'm like, wait, you guys thug out on this dude, and then you whine to the warden about me. So the warden was cool. All he said was, just take that down, right? Take that down. Like, I don't want to get any.
He came from a common sense angle. He was just, please just take this down, make my life easier on me, so they stop coming to my office and bothering me.
Now here's where things got awesome, right? So I made this big sign for the bulletin board.
Right.
And my sign said, members of a certain religion were apparently offended at our new character, Zach the Serpent. This is understandable. However, what is not understandable is that these members of this other religion didn't come to the person who runs the bulletin board, but instead complained directly to the warden about that inmate, right? And then it has this little, basically a little lecture on proper inmate etiquette, right? You're supposed to go to that inmate, tell him, right? Under no circumstances do you run and complain to the warden.
Involve administration.
So I basically called all the guys who complained snitches in public. And now everyone in the camp who's standing in line, breakfast, lunch, and dinner is reading this going,
and I'm thinking, oh boy, I guess I'm going to get killed today.
So I call all these guys snitches, right? And now I'm really expecting to get clocked. Right now I'm really expecting to get clocked over this, and it still never happens. They never surround me. They never hit me. They never do anything. And I called them all snitch. What was interesting is it was like the younger guys who were complaining to the administration, and they went and complained to one of the older school Muslims who've been locked up a long time, and told him they're like, what? He called us all snitches, and the older guy was like, nah, he's right. Everything everything he said was right. You were supposed to go to him, so that's cool. He was actually the Christian got it right. So I had this sign up. And then after that's up for like 2 days, I don't remember if I got called in by the warden or the assistant warden, but they had complained about that. Right? Yeah. They complained about that I was calling them snitches. And so I had to take that down. And at that time, I was like really ticked off, right? It's like, wait, you guys are repeat offender snitches now. Complaining about me.
Exactly. And talking about how tough you were at the last place or the receiving you were and all that. But all you are is a snitch.
Yeah. And again, I'm not trying to start anything. It's just, hey, you guys, if you want to thug out on Christians, just go ahead. I mean, here, I'm here. What's the problem? So then I really got ticked off. I had to take it down because that was being commanded to me by the administration. So I took it down.
Well, man's law.
Yeah. And so I'm walking around and I'm still expecting to get clocked, and they still just completely ignore me. And so finally they called their weekly meeting for Masjid Muslims on Friday, and I was like, screw this, I'm going down there, right? So I go into they're in the cafeteria. There's no guard or anything there. It's just like 20 to 25 Muslims in prison in the cafeteria for their meeting, which is being led by Barnhill. I don't go in there to disrupt anything. I'm like, hey, you guys keep running the administration. If you got a problem, I'm going to make myself available to you to actually say something if you want to say something.
To field complaints or whatever.
I walked right into the middle of the entire group and just sat down, right? And I just stand there and I watch their entire meeting. None of them will even look at me. None of them will even look in my direction. And I'm like, what is going on here? Right? I'm expecting to get my face smashed in.
Yeah,
and these guys will not touch me. They thug out on everyone else and not on me. Right? I'm like, what is going on here? Anyway, it wasn't too long. So anyway, finished the meeting. I got up and left and so on.
Okay.
It wasn't long after that I got removed from that prison, sent to another prison, and it was because there were so many complaints that David was going to get hurt if they did not get out. So they actually took me out of the prison because of threats against me. And I left there. I'm like, are you kidding me? You thug out on the nicest Christian in the world. I give you an opportunity to thug out on me. You complain to the administration. And then when I don't back down and you can't get your way, you make threats to me so that I get removed and sent to another prison. I
hate to say, whoever made that decision really made a bad decision, because you've been pretty much taking care of business ever since. Consequences. Every action has a reaction. Just remember that. Yes.
So anyway, that's when I ended up leaving Stanton.
Yeah.
And then we didn't see each other again until...
Well, yeah, it was a few years. I visited you at your dad's a couple times, I think, there. And I don't know. It's just been off and on. But we usually... It's funny, man, because it goes like years, and then we get in touch with each other after a year, and then it's like we pick up the conversation that we were having a year ago. You know, that's always been the good thing between us, is we've had that good rapport, you know. And I owe a lot of my... should I say my morality, I guess, or whatever, a lot to Dave here. You know, Dave always used to check me, anger and wrong responses to anger is one of my biggest problems. Dave called me when we were in prison, called me out several times, you know, about that, you know, about learning to control myself, learning to control my tongue, you know, stuff. You know, there's a right time and a wrong time, you know, to do things like even witnessing and things like that. You just, especially as a new Christian, you want to go out and tell the world. You want to go out and tell you want to tell bunny rabbits. You know what I mean? It just is so like inspiring, you know, and stuff. And I remember, you know, a couple tough lessons on approaching people that just weren't ready to hear, you know. You know, so, and of course I didn't want it to make me go back to my old self by reacting to whatever they said or did or whatever, you know, and stuff. So, I mean, Dave definitely showed me some wisdom while we were in there, you know, and stuff about, you know, about assessing situations a little bit better, especially spiritually, and making the right decisions, you know. Yeah, and that's important.
And the weird part is, like the weird part, like I look back on that and was like, what was I thinking a lot of the times, right? Mm-hmm. But for prison, I was like a nice guy. Yeah. You get out here and I'm like the biggest jerk. I'm considered the biggest jerk in the world because of the different environments. Right. But I look back on a lot of stuff that I did, and I can't say, hey, I did the right thing. I can't say I did the wrong thing in most of those situations, but you know, like slapping Goob in the head. You know, it seemed like the thing to do at the time. But that's something that now I certainly would not slap someone in the head. But it does bother me that all the stupid stuff I would do.
Yeah.
Because and this is going back to when I was in jail before I was a Christian. There would be no point to it whatsoever, except to but
that's what brought you to Christianity.
Yeah. Well, think about that. Like,
it was, you know, if you think about it directly.
In the jail I was in, we were in a dorm there, and there was a Marine there who was fighting all the time. He had like a hair trigger temper.
Yeah.
Marine. He had death before dishonor tattooed down his arm and stuff like that. He was always talking about his pit bulls and stuff, and how he would fight with his pit bulls and stuff. Anyway, he was there doing freestanding squats. He's just squatting, right? And I'm walking right by him, and I go, his nickname was Pac-Man, right? Because he would take the leftover food off everyone's tray. He's working out all day doing push-ups and squats and stuff.
Protein and push-ups.
Yeah,
Protein and push-ups.
I was still an atheist at this time, but I'm just trying to show you, like, you don't understand how I should have gotten my head stomped in multiple. Now back then I would have just fought. I wouldn't have fought the Muslims if they'd surrounded me. I would have put my hands up and let them smash my face in. I'm not against self-defense. In that situation, I would not have fought back. If someone's storming your house, in the middle of the night, you protect your family, guys. So Pac-Man is sitting there doing these freestanding squats. This Marine, I walk right by him and I go, "That's right, Pac-Man, sit on that penis," but the D word, right? So, "Hey, Pac-Man, sit on that D," right? And I walk right by him, right? And as I'm walking on, I thought that was funny, right? I thought that was a funny thing to say, right?
Even I didn't say that. My goodness
gracious. That's the point. It made no sense. I had nothing against this dude. I just wanted to. I thought it would be funny to see him flip out, but not like he would be flipping out on me, right?
Yeah.
And I'm walking away, and he flips out, and he comes over like he's about to grab, and I start cracking up, laughing, like I think it's hilarious that he's coming after me after this. When he could have just started, wailing on my face, and then we ended up fighting and stuff. But the point is, there was no point to any of that. There's no point to any of that, and a lot of that went away after I became a Christian. But it would be certain circumstances, like after I left Stanton, and they sent me to a much worse place. So I went to St. Bride's, and like half the dorm I was in St. Bride's were 5%ers, right?
Oh, it was known for that.
Yeah, so
that's right.
Guys, if you don't know, the 5% is an offshoot of the Nation of Islam that teaches that the black man is God and the white man is the devil. That was grafted by this.
It's that. Yeah.
No, that was Clarence 13X, I think, was the offshoot and so on. But yeah, it was really, really.
No, Nation of Islam.
That's Nation of Islam is Farrakhan. The
offshoot. But the 5%ers were the offshoots. They were the militant. They were the militant.
So like half this dorm is 5%ers. Anyway, I had this Mexican guy. I don't even know his real name. Everyone called him Amigo. I called him Amigo. Other people called him. People would call him like every. People would call him like every. Like Mexican name, they call him Julio, Jose, whatever,
Hola.
Yeah, and some people would call him a different name every day, right? Yeah. But we all knew because he was the only Mexican there.
He was a pretty cool dude.
Anyway, I would take him to so at St. Bride's, for a while he was going to church with me and stuff. And one day I heard him at the other end of the dorm when someone is saying, "Hey man, you need to calm down." He's like. He started cursing God, right? He's like, what's that MF ever done for me? Blah, 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 blah. And I'm sitting there and I go, hey, amigo, you shouldn't be coming to church with me anymore if you're going to be talking about God like that. So why don't you just go ahead and join the 5%, right? And half the dorm goes, whoa, right? like, why'd you bring us into this, right? And so it was that kind of situation. And
that white boy really see that?
And then those dudes later, they went to a different dorm, and it was a situation where they'd go up and they'd tell a dude, hand over your stuff, and if you don't, they would beat you down and take your stuff, right?
Yeah, St. Bride's was classic for that. When you filled your locker up, they come up and pull your locker out.
This idiot goes in there, he's brand new, he fills up his locker, and they roll up on him, and some guys don't have anyone sending them money. This guy does, and it's it's kind of like it looks like you're throwing it in their face. Hey, I've got a locker full of stuff. So they go over there to take all his stuff, and he tries to stand up for himself, and they just beat that guy senseless. Anyway, you start hearing about it, people coming back because everyone starts scrambling because they don't want to get in trouble. And I'm like, okay, all these guys are from my dorm going over there, and they just beat this dude up, and they're all about to come back with all they're about to come back to this dorm. And there was a spot where the walkway was pretty narrow, right? It's like big enough for you had to like squeeze by each other. And I was like, I'm just gonna go stand there right in the middle of it. Yeah. And I'm just gonna stand there, right? See what happens. And see if they go around me.
Mill around
see if they go around me when they're all like they're in fight mode and stuff.
All radicalized and ready.
It's because by this time I'm like, why am I not getting my face beat in ever? And so I go up there and I just stand there. And sure enough, every last one of them comes through the door, dripping with sweat and stuff like that. And they get to me and they sort of just pause, and then they go around me. All right, and I'm like, what is going on here, right? Because like So I probably have it here somewhere. I have a Ryrie study Bible. It's not in here. I have a Ryrie study Bible that was my study Bible in prison. And down there, so it's a big, thick Bible. And I wrote 100%er down the side of it, right? And so I had that sitting on my headboard. So it was like a little thing that said 100%er, right? And they'd ask me, they go, what you mean 100%er? And I go, well, as a Christian, we can't be settling for anything less than 100%. As a Christian, I can't be settling for 90
or 95%,
5. I even said I would go 5. What is 5? Is that, I thought that was like a kind of milk. Right? And to this day, I don't know, man.
5% milk, buy it.
I don't know. I screwed with people the entire time I was locked up. Never got hurt at all.
Well, you remember my prankster habits. I was caught. That was one of my biggest problems and stuff. I got bored in prison, so I would pull pranks on people or pull jokes on them, whatever. Some got out of hand. Time I gave Billy Bro the cigarette that was full of hot chili peppers. I didn't realize he had asthma. Oh, wow. That kind of thing. Yeah, it's when you got to call, they called the guard really quick because he's, about to die outside. Oh, wow. I was trying to prank him, But it's the same thing, though. I had mentioned, actually, to my fiance the same thing, that the entire time that I was in prison, I never got seriously hurt. And it was a significant amount of time in prison. And, as far as hands being laid on me or anything, I did the laying on, they didn't do the laying on. God always had his hand on me while I was in prison. I do have to say that even before, I rededicated my life, to the Lord, there were so many times, walking on Kane Mountain Yard and hearing the screams of, I can't wait to get you, white boy, and all the other stuff, the usual stuff you hear, And then never have a single hand laid on you. Like you're talking about, people actually walk around you rather than deal with you, that kind of thing. It's real. It is real. And we were in probably the worst situation you can get yourself in the United States. United States prisons are known worldwide, as being, just really bad places. Don't believe the hype on TV. Trust me. The main thing is, that I experienced a very similar thing, as Dave did, that the Lord always had his hand on me and he always protected me, always kept me safe from harm, and all I could be is appreciative and thank you and thankful for that, A quote, I don't know if any of you guys ever watched Trailer Park Boys or not, but there's a quote, there's a character in it called, who's named Jim Leahy. He's the one who's the head of the trailer park or whatever, but he had passed away here just a couple of years ago, and he made a special clip after the show, was done with the season. And what he said, and I think it's a really, really good quote, is that the greatest currency is gratitude. And that's something I think all of us need to be thankful of. Every night when you go to sleep, every morning when you wake up, you should be thankful that the Lord woke you up. You should be thankful that the Lord protects you while you're sleeping. And we were in a place where being protected while you were sleeping was a real thing. It wasn't a brown recluse spider. It was 30 people who wanted to kill you, or something. It was a lot more extreme, and, if we were able to make it through, we haven't even gotten into the real good stories. I guess we'll say that for another time, but, God always did protect us, the whole thing with Oaks and everything else, that was a huge statement on the yard. Everybody knew about it. And they saw what happened to him, and that brought a lot of people into the church. And I'm not saying that that the hurtful things that someone goes through, or something like that to drive them or make other people come to church is right. I'm just saying it was a perfect storm, and to be honest with you, I still to this day am, and just blown away by what happened, how immediate the consequences were, because me and Dave were, we were sold out for Christ then. We witnessed to, people that were ready to listen. We tried our best to get, souls in those pews and stuff. And we both were baptized there, as a matter of fact, in a big steel tub. Imagine a huge, big steel washing tub.
Cold water.
Ice cold water. And it was wintertime. Yes. And it really kind of sucked, stuff being dunked in that water. But when coming out of that water and knowing that public and not, kind of that public announcement to the world that you're one of God's children, I tell you what, I didn't even feel the cold water when I came up. I felt so good. I felt reborn. I guess being born again being the key reference to that. And if we could do it in prison, anybody could do it out here. I mean, come on now.
No, we've been going over an hour and a half. There is another.
Has it been that long?
There is another interesting topic that I'd like to discuss. That I don't think enough. I don't think it's really been addressed sufficiently, because you're talking about being sold out and so on.
Mm-hmm.
And you and a number of the best Christian brothers I've ever had got out and then got locked back up,
and
including Satterwhite. Again, one of the top, one of the
most
one
Christians
of the
you have ever
Christians
met in my life.
Ever.
Yeah.
And there is this attitude I've seen in lots of people where, okay, you're a Christian when you're locked up, and then you go back to screwing up when you get out, and so you were just faking. Whereas
it's the temptations. It's the
overdrive.
It's the overdrive of suddenly you're able to do anything you want when you come from a situation where you weren't able to do anything you want.
It's a number of factors. Anyway, to seriously address it, I think would take a little bit. But maybe before you head out, maybe we'll jump on. Is that something you guys would like to see? Why you have inmates who are sold out for Christ and then they get out and end up locked back up and so on?
I'd certainly like to explain myself on that, because it is a worthwhile story to listen to. And also kind of a warning, too, about how easy it is to backslide, how easy it is to get away from the Lord, because we are surrounded out here with so many distractions, so many deceptive things, and real things and stuff. When you're in prison, you're able to focus, you're able to focus directly on your Christianity and work on it. When you're out here, you have to work. You have to take care of your kids. You have a mortgage to take care of, things like that. And then you get it maybe back into some old habits or things like that. Now, unfortunately, that's what happens to a lot of people getting out. Thus, the high recidivism rate,
Yeah. You can see right here, see all the yeses?
Yeah.
These are all the people when I asked
Fine, great. If you guys want to
it's
hear
all
more,
yeses, and then there are some more Kane.
Thanks, Arriva. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, if we get a chance, we'll go live again. We'll go live again probably tomorrow. It probably won't be at the same time because one of my sons has rustling at this normal time, so it might be a little bit later than we started tonight. But yeah, we will, Lord willing, we will go live again tomorrow, and
looking forward to it.
Yeah, and we will discuss why inmates get locked back up.
Call it the Christian recidivism session.
Yeah. All right. So everyone here, look.
There we go. Thank you, guys.
whether you agree with us or not on any issues, just know we love you guys. We want the best for everyone.
And we will pray for you. And we love you.
And we encourage all of you to get to know the Lord Jesus Christ.
Amen.
Catch y'all later.
Peace.